Whoa, you're really villaining out in here. What's lame? What's going on?
That's Pete talking to Teddy, but it might as well have been Zac Efron's fanbase talking to the actor himself about his villainous turn on the 2014 comedy hit Neighbors. And that's probably exactly what he was hoping for, because at the time, Efron had a problem. And oddly, that problem was that he was just too damn likable.
She's a little flirt.
Oh, like her mom, I bet. Cool.
Zac Efron started his career making minor appearances on shows like Firefly, ER, and The Guardian. He finally earned himself a reoccurring role on the 2004 WB drama Summerland, which was quickly upgraded to a regular role in the second season because the fans liked him so much. The show was canceled after that season, but it wouldn't be a major problem for Zac because he was on the precipice of landing the part that would elevate him to superstardom. Troy Bolton in Kenny Ortega's 2006 Disney Channel movie, High School Musical. Troy was a high school athlete and aspiring musical drama star who fills a role in the plot that's vaguely similar to the part of Danny in Grease, if Danny were a popular basketball star. He's also the male lead of a Disney film aimed at tweens, so you can bet he's as clean as an operating table and as wholesome as Coca-Cola and apple pie. High School Musical was, of course, a smash hit. Literally the most commercially successful movie that the Disney Channel ever produced. It earned 2 sequels, both starring Efron, and the last entry in that trilogy was released theatrically, earning nearly $253 million. The success was great for Efron's career. He got to star as Link Larkin in 2007's Hairspray, play a young Matthew Perry in 2009's 17 Again, but at the same time, most of the parts he was getting were still trading off the wholesome likability of Troy Bolton.
My prom is wherever you are.
Efron was being typecast, and in roles that were sure to dry up as he got older. Maybe because it's something that happens to every child and teen actor eventually, but Efron seemed to be aware of the danger. He dropped out of what would become 2011's Footloose remake, which many speculated was because the part was too similar to Troy Bolton. And starting around 2012, he began turning up in more eclectic and decidedly more adult mix of films, including stuff like At Any Price, Parkland, and The Paperboy. But Efron's tween-safe performance as the preppy Troy Bolton was cemented in the public mind. It was pretty much impossible for most people to think of him as anything but an overachieving Disney Channel star with an almost comically sculpted physique. As a result, he would try the same thing many in his spot had tried before, playing against type. And while Efron himself has denied making a conscious decision to change his image, in the same breath, he added that,
I don't think there's a choice. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I'm gonna get old.
So he wasn't choosing to, but he was doing it. The results of such experiments, however, vary widely. For every successful example, like Kurt Russell in Escape from New York or Bruce Willis in Die Hard, there are notorious strikeouts like Elizabeth Berkley in Showgirls or Macaulay Culkin in The Good Son. Still, if Efron was going to avoid playing increasingly old and decreasingly relevant clones of Troy Bolton for the rest of his career, he had to make a move. And that move turned out to be playing Teddy in Neighbors. Neighbors is primarily the story of Mac and Kelly Radner, played by Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne. A married couple with a newborn baby girl, the responsibility and structured life that comes along with being parents has choked the spontaneity out of their relationship, and they fear that they're turning into the worst thing they can possibly imagine: old people. As if, on cue, the Delta Psi Beta fraternity moves in next door, and the couple quickly find themselves at odds with a guy who's pretty much the personification of the very freewheeling, youthful irresponsibility and irreverence that they miss so badly. That guy is Efron's Teddy, and as the chapter president, he realizes that the couple next door could make trouble for Delta Psi, so he pours on the charm.
How's it going? Are you our new neighbors? We're your new neighbors!
But after Mac and Kelly break a promise by making a noise complaint to the police, Teddy turns extremely spiteful, unusually fast. Hey everyone, so if you've been a fan of this channel for a while, you probably know that I'm a huge fan of The Lord of the Rings. So when I heard about the new CRPG from Capital Games and EA that lets you collect all your favorite good and evil characters and explore Middle-earth, I was instantly intrigued. The Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth allows you to relive all your favorite stories as well as brand new ones based on Tolkien's work. And they have these events called Legendary Adventures. These are limited time events that give players an opportunity to upgrade their characters and unlock powerful legendary characters. But like anything legendary, these adventures are only available for a limited time, so you gotta make sure you prepare. The next Legendary Adventure event is starting June 26th, so make sure you collect 5 Elven characters in order to unlock Elrond, who is coming soon to Heroes of Middle-earth. But even if you miss the event, there are still lots of exciting Lord of the Rings characters to collect and stories to explore. So download Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth for free using the link in the description or by scanning the QR code with your phone. You won't regret it. And now, back to the video. At first, this just takes the form of petty harassment. The frat essentially hazes the couple by doing stuff like leaving garbage on their lawn, but the conflict escalates quickly, and Teddy becomes increasingly obsessed with Mac and Kelly. He eventually begins to give off a dark, stalkery vibe, and the movie even finds an excuse to dress him as Travis Bickle, the dangerous sociopath played by Robert De Niro in Martin Scorsese's 1976 classic Taxi Driver. But of course, given the tone of the film, Teddy doesn't really turn out to be Travis Bickle. He is merely, as Efron describes him, a douche. And his antics are always played for laughs. It worked so well because Teddy is, in many ways, sort of like Troy Bolton's petty, spiteful, manipulative, violent twin. When we look at him, we see what we imagine the college-age version of the High School Musical hero might look like. It's genuinely shocking every time he does something underhanded, and that resemblance wasn't an accident. According to co-star Seth Rogen, Efron was actually very self-deprecating and had a great deal of awareness about how he was perceived. It's a characterization echoed by director Nicholas Stoller, who found Efron had a great sense of humor about his public persona. But regardless of how game he was, it was legitimately a risky role for Efron. Had it not landed well with the public, it could have not only signaled Hollywood that he wasn't marketable as anything but a hunky nice guy, but it could even damage his ability to return to those hunky nice guy roles if he felt he had to. Luckily for Efron, Neighbors was a massive success. Even more astounding is that the gross-out comedy holds a respectable 73% critical score on Rotten Tomatoes. And many of those critics specifically called out the unlikely depth Efron brought to his character and commented about the contrast the part made with his clean-cut image. Efron won 2 MTV Movie Awards for Neighbors, one for Best On-Screen Duo with Dave Franco, and one for Best Shirtless Performance. Okay, so they're not exactly Oscars, but that wasn't really the point. He had shown studios that audiences would accept him playing more complex and less wholesome characters than the all-American pretty boys he had mostly been confined to in the past. He also had shown he could hold his own on screen against the likes of Seth Rogen, Rose Byrne, and Ike Barinholtz in an adult comedy.
We're a great team. Thanks. You make the store more approachable. What does that mean?
And many of his subsequent roles were also in comedies, like Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, Baywatch, and Neighbors 2 Sorority Rising. He also turned up in dramas, like 2015's We Are Your Friends, 2022's Gold, and of course Netflix's 2019 film, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, in which he played the notorious serial killer Ted Bundy. The movie itself drew mixed reviews, but Efron drew raves from his performance as Bundy. According to director Joe Berlinger, Bundy used his good looks and trustworthy appearance to lure his victims to their deaths. He cast Efron because he knew the young people he was making the film for knew and trusted his appearance. The juxtaposition of Efron's wholesome appeal against the darkness of the character isn't all that different from how he was used in Neighbors. In fact, there's arguably a direct line between the comedically dark mirror of Troy Bolton that Efron played in Neighbors and the real-life serial killer he played in Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. The truth is, most of us aren't Troy Bolton, and while there's nothing inherently wrong with tween-targeted programming, people fundamentally crave stories about characters who give us a glimpse at their dark side. It gives them dimension and makes them more relatable. Audiences are happy to accept Efron in complex roles like that now, and it's pretty much all thanks to Neighbors. And while some of the films he's done since have been more successful than others, what's most important to note is that none of them, under any circumstances, would ever be confused with a Disney Channel movie. So, what do you think? Are you a fan of Zac Efron? And what do you think of his turn in Neighbors? Let us know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely find others you'll like if you check out the rest of the channel. As always, thank you for subscribing to Nerdstalgic.